them to you, but you give me the cash and I get all the data to Case King, so we have warranty on the chairs and stuff like that. And the catch with this is you have to pick it up after the event and you have to carry them. You don't get a box for doing that because they don't fit in the box anymore. That's the catch. We have 4 chairs. If we have more people who want to buy them, we do a raffle on them. The next thing, and this is really time critical, and I want you to share that with everybody who isn't in the room right now, because this is really time critical. We want to do, because it's nice weather, we want to do a group photo with all you guys before lunch. After the talk of Ashtier, ISD Ashtier, we will have this photo ops. And we need to focus on this. So all get outside. All follow directions really quickly. Of course, no photo, no food. I'm serious, really. And then I have kind of a bad news, but we always consider that as a nice to have add-on. It might happen that the guest Wi-Fi doesn't work and we need to shut it down in order to allow the streaming. So that's my last point. Please don't get confused. This guest Wi-Fi, that's nice if you have your mobile normal connection and the guest Wi-Fi doesn't work, use your normal connection. Und jetzt das Ganze nochmal in Deutsch. Okay, Verlosungen. Wann? Gegenwärtig 18:30 Uhr. Der Plan kann sich ändern. Wir versuchen euch über den Plan zu informieren. Wir haben auf unserer Webseite versteckt, ich weiß das, ist ganz bewusst versteckt, den Plan unter g-feed.de/schedule, Englisch für Plan. Das zweite ist, naja, und dann halt noch die Geschichte von wegen, wir machen die Verlosung hier oben. Wenn ihr nicht eure Hand hebt, kommt der nächste dran. Also nur wer hier ist, kriegt den Preis. Dann haben wir die Nitro Concept Stühle. Wir verkaufen die für 50% Discount. Wir haben 4 Stück anzubieten. Wenn wir mehr als 4 Leute haben, die interessiert sind, losen wir. Und dann als drittes, wir wollen ein Gruppenfoto machen. Das kommt nach dem Vortrag von ISD Ashtier. Wenn der fertig ist, gebe ich nochmal eine Ansage, aber wichtig ist, dass wir wirklich ganz schnell rausgehen, dass wir versuchen, so schnell wie möglich dieses Bild zu kriegen, weil erst danach gibt es Essen. Und das letzte ist, wir können uns das Gast-Wi-Fi manchmal nicht erlauben, weil die Streamer die Bandbreite brauchen. Wir haben das immer als nice to have angesehen. Heute Abend im Keller wird es wahrscheinlich wieder vollständig funktionieren, aber wenn ihr hier oben seid, habt ihr sowieso normale Verbindung. So, this is actually my announcements, and I guess we should start with the talks, should we? Yeah. That's good. And maybe you people have been at FanFest, and maybe you know this situation in former times when we had FanFest and people giving talks, and the keynote was on the last day, and speakers always had to refer to the keynote, way to the keynote. So we decided we don't want to have that here. So I'm happy to announce CCP Cognac, who is giving the very first talk. And then after this talk, you're free to ask him questions, as many as you want. Well, not in the Q&A, I will cut that down, but later on. Okay, applaud for CCP Cognac.
Morning. Thank you for waking up so early. I promised to call out Jintan if he was not here. I can't see him, so Jintan, you owe me one. talk is head about the abyss. I'm going to talk a little bit about visual space and something more later. We start with the basics. Who am I? My name is CCP Cognac. I am a senior software engineer on Online for a team called Team Size Letters. I've been at CCP for almost 2,400 days, or over 6.5 years. I've been a member of EVE Online for a lot longer than that. So started my career in September 2004. Team Science Matters. We were mostly a monetization team in the beginning. We did the new store, the skin system, skill trading, alpha and omega, the packs we run. But at that time, we were allowed to move into gameplay, which we've been asking for a long time. And the first big thing that we made, along with two other teams, Team Phenomenon and Team Thailand, was a visual dead space. We are also the balance team right now, which is led by CCP Rise, and adding the new chips into the game, the sharks and the lighthouse. So why did we make a visual dead space? We wanted to create a short session PvE in EVE. We all know this, that every day that you spend a lot of time waiting for something to happen, waiting for your friends to come online. And what I used to do is go and play another game. Because it's just boring simulator. Or if you only had half an hour or an hour, there was really nothing to do in it. Do one level 1 or 3 mission or something like that. But it's not good enough. So we wanted something that had like a 20-minute, 25-minute gameplay time that you had. We wanted to make it a little demanding, but still fair. You should be able to die in a visual dead space, but you should also know why you died. And learn from it and be able to not die the next time you do it. We wanted to make it dynamic, not to have like static content that you play, you learn, and you get the same thing after playing it for 1 or 2 weeks. We wanted to make it a visceral experience, and this is one of the reasons that we have it in, let's say, instant space, is because when we did that, it allows us to constrain the camera and do a lot of things, so you feel like you're built into that moment that you have. You have those huge looking asteroids or something, you can just scroll out and see a dust cloud, and you're in the moment. One of the key things that we were asked to do was have it accessible to everyone. So let's not say a day 1 character will run a visual, but week 2 or 3 should be able to run a tier 1 at least. And that's why we went for the change in difficulty ramps up quite high in a visual space, and the difference between tier 1 and tier 2 is quite big, but the difference between tier 4 and tier 5 is even big. We did something new when we were doing this, is the possibility of striking gold. It means that it is possible in almost every tier of a visual to get incredibly good loot, but it is highly improbable. So, and this is something that we have not been quite good at communicating. We probably didn't do it well enough. So a lot of people have been, it's like playing the lotto. The guy that wins is really happy, but there are a lot more losers than are winners. So we did a change to this and front-loaded a little bit more loot into it, but but this is something that we are also looking at all the time and trying to figure out if it's a good test. And we also wanted to start small a little bit. That's why we started just with the cruiser system, and it means that we had a much smaller scope of NPCs that we had to offer, and we could actually go and test the stuff before we released it to you, and we wanted to get it out sooner rather than having it be 12 or 18 months wait until we have everything that we wanted to. To date, we have almost 2 million abyssal sets that have already been run. And as you can see from the slides, that it drops down quite drastically with the tiers. Tier 1s is by far the biggest, it's like almost a third of the entirety, while Tier 5 has a little bit, 2% of what's been run. We were like hoping for like a similar split like this, but we're kind of hoping for more people to run 5s. We know they are hard, but I don't think they are too hard, but I know that people have to risk a lot of nice things to do them. This is how the split of age for the people that are running it. And this graph lies quite a bit. You can see that the youngest people that have been playing for 0 or 1 years are doing it a lot, and the same with the people that have been playing for 11 years has another huge spike. The reason that this is not quite right is this is the split of our player base, how it actually is. As you can see, the 0 and 1 years are by far the highest groups that we have, and at the end, from 11, 12, and 13, they are a much smaller part of the player base, but are the most active of the people doing abyssal. This probably means that it's a little bit too difficult, but there are also other things that all go into the issues why it has been like this. One thing that abyssal, I mean, we weren't sure what was going to happen when we launched this. What was going to be the impact of the people doing it? Was it going to be a good experience for people or a bad experience with people? How would their patterns change after doing this in the game? So we had our data analysts go over this, and we took a sample of everyone that had tried abyssal, and we looked at the next 30 days what they did, and the previous 30 days of how they behaved. And we also took 100,000 people, random sample for everybody in EVE, and did the same, and see how their behavior was. And these are the results from that. So, on the left we have DEU, it's basically how many times people are logging in. And you can see the yellow is the people that have played the Abyss, and the blue is just a random sample. It also contains people that might have, but it's just pure random for everybody. But it is not very often that we have a feature that has such drastic measurables or positives for people to do it. People walk in more, they play for longer, they do less mining, they jump more, they do less vision, and they die out. So, it's great. And on this next slide, I'm going to show you the difference between the risk of running missions in EVE and running a visual that's this. The blue line is the percent of people that died during missions. I'm pretty sure it's already been positive. We're adding ships to the game, but we're doing it. But it's a solved problem, and everybody that's doing missions can do it. Like, they don't need to be at their computer. Have you done dancing into stress 50 times, 50 second time is going to be quite easy.
I would call that wrong because burner missions are quite difficult.
Yeah, but people don't do them. If you were forced to do the burning missions, then yeah, that might be the case. As you can see, like from the graph, it started out when we released, people died quite a lot. And it like tamped down a little bit, and more people came in, and they died a little bit more. And then it tempered down a little, and then the huge spike is when the events team put out the abyssal event. A lot of new people started coming in, and a lot of new people started dying. After abyssal had been out for about a month, we at CCP did one of the biggest surveys we've ever done. I think we sent out a survey to 100,000 players, asking them questions about the abyss. The things that came out of that, the good things that people said, the visuals and the environment, I think everybody agrees it's gorgeous. The artists always get the best claps. They like the short sessions, they like the variability of it, they like the excitement of it because it can be scary and it is nice to be scared. Everybody that has ever done PvP knows that. The shakes that you get from just finishing something in time. That's nice. And they like the rewards. As you know, this is 100,000 people that are asked. And a lot of positives about the rewards. And you go, but not so good. The rewards are almost there, also there for the people that did it. The really bad thing that we have is like, and this is on us, 10% of the people that asked didn't even know about this death space. And another bad thing that has surprised me quite a lot is 14% didn't try because they claim they don't know how to fit the switch load. 10% don't know how to get the keys. And this fourth point is 30% don't try another side if they die. And I know if people have been running PvE for quite a long time and are used to being super successful and maybe try with a really expensive ship the first time, the loss can be quite hard. But I think that we should try to get people to do it again. We first don't succeed, then try again. And one of the things that people talk about is solo content is not for everyone. Other things that are not on this list is all this PvPers on the PvP. But that's not what Abyssal is about now. The future of Abyssal Dead Space. This is really dark and you can't see anything. This is good because I have text on the next slide. We have been working on co-op. It's 3 players and frigates in a fleet. It will change how you go into the abyss. Now you place down a beacon that people need to actually jump through. And this will be on duality today. You can wait for a post from CCP Paradox and CCP Rise when you'll be ready. But you should be able to try this content today. This is very early testing for us. We wanted to get this out super fast. That's why it's on duality and not CC. And basically we're using a lot of the crucial content to do the frigates. And we've been trying this, we've been playing this at work. It's super fun. It is, I think if you're really good, it's easier than the crucial parts, but you need to have 3 people in there, so that one of them does a mistake, and it kind of multiplies. And it opens up a lot. It's all frigates, it's Tech 1, it's Tech 2, you can use EVOR frigates, you can be logistics, and create all kinds of teams that you want. You should, after defeat ends, please go and try it, and please tell us how you think about it, what you think about it, how it is. We want to get this in a really good state before, and when we release it, there's no release date on this yet. Because we want to have it almost perfect when it goes out. Vegas is going to have quite a lot more about Abyssal PvP, the future of Abyssal. And I can't unfortunately talk about that now because that's kind of not ready and not the time and the place. But you should definitely tune into that and see what we have in store because there's a lot of things I'm not allowed to talk about here. So this is what I was going to talk about the Abyssal. The next part of my presentation is something that we don't often do or almost never do. So I am an engineer, not a game designer, and I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of things I want to do in it. Nothing has been decided about it. It's things that's on my heart of stuff that I want to do. So, fittings. You can see this lead fit that I created for my mix. Fittings is a huge part of Immortal. Everything you do, it's like anytime you're on top, you have something that is fit. Unless you're in a hot, or something like that. Probably not doing much anyway if you're doing that. It is capstable. The small and shield booster and armor repairer are clearly for that, but it has 3 silencers. Fittings is very integral to everything you do. And we have kiln mails only tell half of the story. And this is we saw this when we released Abyssal, and people were thinking, how should I fit my ship? What people did, they went to the kill boards and looked at the people who died in the abyss. Because that's the only information that they had. Without asking someone that actually finished it and was successful, the only information you could find is people that failed. So the survivor's journal is something that's only optional for people to do. And a problem that we have now at CCP is our data is built on living data. So I can look, if I go into our data and look at the database, I can see how the ship is fit now. But I might want to know how was your ship fit 2 weeks ago, if it's still alive. Or your fit might change many times over the day. So the things that I want to be able to do, is I want to know what everyone is flying and how it is fit at every time. And this is what I want to know as an engineer at CCP. Oh, Tintan is here. You're late. I called you out earlier. No, I don't, like I said at the end there, I don't want other people to know your fits at all time. The things that we won't be able to do things like recommend to new players fits that are actually being used for the activities that they're doing. If you are a new player, you go, okay, I want to run this level 4 Sans Ambitions, and I can fly these ships. How do I fit them? And I want to be able to look up third data, see, oh, that dude over there did it in this kind of ship, it has the same skill point bracket you are, so here's an example for you. I don't want to say do this, I want to give you an example. Be able to give new players at least a hint of what they're doing. And this is also really important for the game designers that I work with. They're asked to balance things all the time, and they might have gut feelings or snapshot of how things are being used. But we know people are doing a lot of carrier NPC hunting at this place and blah blah blah, but we don't know exactly. So, is something incredibly broken? Are there ships out there that are incredibly broken? And if we know how every fit is at the game at all time, and we should be able to see a huge spike in those fits and know where to look at them.
Good luck speaking to your PDA admin.
Yeah, that's a problem for them. With stuff like this, it's something that we wouldn't keep in a regular database. I mean, we'd use some big data for it and some smart kind of storage. But this is quite doable. If it's done correctly, this is quite doable. And all the things we can do if we have this, and this is, I reiterate, these are just my ideas, not the ideas of CCP or anyone that's there, is that there's a lot of meta gameplay that we can create around this. We can, like, for instance, if you look at T5 Abyssal Electric, who has the cheapest fit to do it? It's like, who wants to, and you can have a competition of, I can do it cheaper, I can do it faster, and I can do it more expensive. For the same thing, it's like, I know leaderboards are something that people have mixed feelings about, but it allows us to do stuff like that. If we want to, global or even just corporation leaderboards. Who is the best in my corporation? Who's the fastest miner? It's like, when we have this, like, the base information of fits and stuff like this, then we can't add so much additional data on top of it that we actually don't have today. I am really excited about this, and I hope that I'm allowed to do it one day. This is, like I said, this is something we engineers talk about, but nothing has been decided. It's very buried under a pile of papers with the producers on top of us. But one day, I want this to be the reality. I want to be able to know everything about everyone at all time, just like Facebook, but for you online. And I want to be able to make the game better with this information. It's like we're not trying to make Eve easy, like people always talk about, but sometimes things don't need to be hard just to be hard. Like having additional information is always good. So, questions?
For the three frigates, are we allowed to bring faction frigates and German ships?
Every kind of frigate. Please bring your 80 ships to Abyssal. And do it on TQ like a man.
I feel like the most fearsome thing for Abyssal side runners, especially in the high tiers, is the part where you get, not very often, but it can happen, a socket close. Because that's almost certain, yeah, the possibility you die is very high.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good question that you're saying. The problem with socket closed is it's really hard for us to know what happened. It's like, did you intentionally take the cable from your car, or did it just happen? So at least in the beginning, we had like really strict rules from customer support of no reimbursements. But of course, if it's, especially when it's cases of when we have high volumes of socket closed or time period, which we sometimes have, either through DDoS periods or just problems with internet around the world, I think they have been a little bit more lenient with it. But like I said, with things like sock and close, it is so hard for us to put a line of either reverse everything or reverse nothing, and for a Bissell, the choice was to do nothing. But I understand what you're saying 100%.
Would it maybe be a possibility to, if you see the player disconnects, to get a maybe 2-minute break?
Yeah, but if you do that, then I can literally just like unplug my internet and add 2 minutes to my timer. Like you just reconnect. That's the problem. Like seeing that a player disconnects doesn't mean that you have disconnected due to things that are outside of your control, because you control your own access to the internet.
No, I mean it just freezes like a pause, and if you reboot, it goes at the same moment.
There are some things that we do actually in Abyssal to combat that. We don't, there's no emergency work in Abyssal. We don't take you out of the park. But of course the NPCs are still there and they will continue killing you. But if you have cleared the room and get a socket closed and log back in, it will be fine. It will lost some time, and adding time dynamically to that is hard, and it's like, I don't think it's worth the hassle. I think it's more likely that you send a really nice worded mail to customer support and get you some back for that.
This gentleman here has a question, but
he doesn't speak too much English, so I translate it. First question is concerning the main topic, if is hard. There are already existing Gila fittings that are able to do level 5 sessions. Do you have any follow-up plans to make it even harder again?
I think harder is not the correct word, but less solved. We want to add more NPCs to it and different kinds of NPCs to it. So it shouldn't be harder, but Agila might not be the right thing for everything.
it's about.
It is now.
It is not.
And it's mostly because
You can't do level 5 with turrets, with laser, or with another turret stuff. You can all take with rocket or drone meta. It worked already.
yeah, and that's the easiest and best thing now, but you can do it with the other ships. Because people have done it. But it's true, Gila is the best fit for it now because it's a jack of all trades.
Yes.
So maybe the question isn't how do we change, and I want to reiterate, I am an engineer, not a game designer, so I won't be doing this, but maybe people on my team will. Maybe the problem is the Gila and not the Visual Dead Space.
Okay, thank you. He has a second question, and it's concerning scanning out the Abyss entries. This appears to him to be too hard. Are there any plans to make it more accessible so there's more PvP?
Sorry?
Are there any plans to make the scanning out of the Dead Space entries easier?
So we used to have suspect tracks on 4s and 5s. It has been turned off for now. It might come back. When that was the case, at the same time we were creating the beacons for it, because being suspect in HiSec was a new thing. We made the beacons a little bit harder to scan. So the beacons are basically set up like a frigate. It's about as hard to scan down a frigate as it is a Visual Dead Space trace. That might change in the future. I haven't decided anything with it.
I have a follow-up question to those with disconnects. Is there any plans right now, when you finish the Abyss and trigger the last gate, there is a time delay in which you still can die? Is there?
Yes, it will be, the timer will be there. You're going to change it to timer will stop as soon as you press the button. So, tier side, I mean, it's a better question for CCP Rise. I see it's doing most of the stuff. It is not on our docket right now. It is something that, of course, we want to finish, but right now we think there are more interesting and fun things that we want to change. That's why we are doing like drastic changes to how ECM works and changing the interceptors. We want to do a period now where we do a lot of incremental big changes, which are still little changes but are big in the game to see how it actually works, and are questioning a lot of things that have been set in stone for a long time. Because I mean, everybody here knows that ECM is kind of terrible for everyone. It is terrible for the user because he only remembers when his jams failed and he died. It is terrible for the victim because he only remembers when he was jammed and he died. And it's not really a fun gameplay. That's why we're kind of changing it into a taunt, like it's working now. We of course need to go over most of the E ships and change them a little bit because they need to be probably buffed a little bit to be able to be that taunt role better now. As with your question, tier side, we love to do it, but it's not happening anytime soon.
For the sake of being in the time schedule later on, 2 more questions, please. I hand you over the mic, and maybe you repeat the question if the sound is not that loud. So, okay?
Okay.
So I have a question about PvP part. We know EVE is a whole PvP play in every kind, also market and everything else. In the basic business space, you have the small problem that's not even easy to get the entry point. Do you plan to make this entry point like in Celestial, where you can see an overview from the whole system, or something like this? Because if you drive the space in Warhol, I think it's something like the easiest way and the safest way you actually farm is because you just use safe lockoff point in the auto system, and it's nearly impossible to find these people because yes, you can walk probe, combat probe these people, but not in time. They are too fast out of range or out of
So the question is about changing the beacons again for PvP purposes. I mean, they go in and they are there for 20 minutes, or on average around 15 minutes, depending on the tier you're doing. In that time frame, you should be able to probe them down. I think moving it as a Celestial is way too easy. I think if it is actually too hard to probe down, I think we would do it by making the probing a little bit easier. But I want it as a combat action, so I want it to be a combat probe thing. If we put everything on the Celestial, then it's way, in my opinion, it's too favorable for a PvPer. It's like, he doesn't need to do any probing, he doesn't need to have a poker, he can just go and sit there, and he knows the guy that's coming out is fit for PvE. So, you have to fight for your easy prey. That's my answer on that. And we might make it a little bit easier to probe them down, especially if we decide not to re-enable the suspect flags, I would say. Because then it becomes more of a PvP scenario just for null and wormhole, where people should be dying more. But
We are.
yeah, when you're on luck. But for now, no.
Okay, one last question.
About big changes. You can make the text bigger, the text bigger or the text smaller.
Question is, do I want to make the faxes bigger or the other cap smaller?
The SS.
They should be capitals. I mean, I am about as wrong a person to ask this question. I have the artistic ability of me. I can steal things from the internet and get other people to. I couldn't draw a straight line to save my own life. So yeah, why not? I think that's way more on the art guys to decide for that. And you should definitely take it up with them if you think it's a problem. But I'm not the correct guy to answer this question. That's a great question.
Okay, thank you, CCP Cognac.
Thank you very much
for doing this talk. Our next speaker belongs to a special group. We do have players in here, right? They know stuff. We have the devs. They know